Just like the turf, though, of the Olembé Stadium, it hasn't been smooth sailing for hosts Cameroon throughout the tournament. In fact, speaking of turf and stadium pitches, that's been one of the key issues, as both Douala and Olembé were called out at various times by different coaches for not being playable surfaces. There was also a big scare prior to the tournament with the emergence of the Omicron COVID strain, forcing organisers to rapidly find solutions, including vaccine passes and PCR test proof for fans before matches. And on the field, there were more complaints about referee performances, particularly that of Zambian official Yanni Zikwazi, who blew his whistle early twice in the match between Mali and Tunisia, leaving coaches absolutely apoplectic. And then on the 24th of January, a day which we will never forget, tragedy struck outside the Olembé Stadium as 8 people were killed and 38 more injured in a crush and subsequent stampede at the stadium's southern entrance gate. James, having been to Cameroon, experienced the entire tournament, how do you think the legacy of those issues will remain? Does it cast a shadow?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are for many people, maybe people who weren't even following the tournament. This is the stampede is the one thing that they'll remember from it. It's not a good image for CAF. It's not a good image for the tournament. It's not a good image for Cameroon either. So these are issues that should be stopped and shouldn't happen today. And of course, we're waiting to hear more about what's going to be happening and about the investigation behind this. And that's one of the terrible points that will be remembered. And that definitely the problem is that during the tournament, at one point, we weren't talking about the football anymore. We were talking more about this. And that's not what you want when you're hosting any type of event, any type of tournament. On the positive sides of things, well, look, before the tournament took place, so many people were saying, hey, COVID, it's going to be too complicated. Cameroon weren't ready to host it. They'd already had to wait their turn an extra time before we're taking it on this year. But they managed to do it. They managed within the pandemic, and that's something that they'll be glad to have shown that it is possible. And so many managers not wanting to let their players go off, and they've shown in the end that it can be it is a popular tournament. And perhaps it's also showing to people what this means for African players. I mean, here in Europe, we watch the Euros, we watch the World Cup, but the on that other level, well, there's the Africa Cup of Nations for them, and there are not the same amounts of African teams making it to the World Cup in any case. This is the Holy Grail. For Sadio Mane, we know how much he wanted it. We know how much the nation behind him wanted to be able to lift this trophy. And to give you, when we talk about Senegal, every game, the number of journalists that they send out to cover that game is just that was the one time where we really would have to make sure that we were getting there early if we wanted to get a spot in the media zone, or perhaps just get a lineup, because this was how much they are fully invested. So today we've witnessed the end of finally the crowning of the champions, and it's a beautiful story and something that can happen once again any time. But these are. That will be one of the, hopefully, the more talked about side, the more remembered. Let's try and remember the positives, but of course you can't ignore what happens, and many things do need to be worked on in terms of organisation as well. When we talk about the pitch, we talk about moving one stadium to another within a few days. Chaos, teams not even actually knowing at some point where they're going to be playing their next game. This was one thing that happened when we were speaking to Equatorial Guinea, and they didn't know where they were actually going to be playing their next game. That's a lack of. There's some communication that needs to go on, and it's not something that you want to see going on. But look, the learning from this, how's it going to happen on the next time? We've got, I mean, it's a challenge for any 24-team tournament to be held in a country for Ivory Coast. We'll have to see if they're ready. But hopefully lessons going to be learned, and we're not going to be seeing the same things that happens. It's going to be a more positive experience going forward.
And of course, we'll touch